So many times we're surrounded by opportunities that would change our lives or that would help propel us to actually achieve what we want to achieve. But we just don't see them because we've already decided that we're not qualified. I wanted to share a story about how I won my first $2 million contract that really changed the trajectory of my entire life. Hello and welcome to the Dream Life with Sumi podcast. I am so excited that you're here. This podcast is for women like you who are done with playing small and are ready to actually achieve your biggest, wildest dreams and know that it's possible for you. My name is Sumi Krishnan. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur. I built a tech company in DC. I grew it to over 200 full-time employees and then had a successful exit, moved across country to LA, and now I'm pursuing a totally new dream as a pop music recording artist here in LA. This episode, I wanted to share a story about how I won my first $2 million contract that really changed the trajectory of my entire life and kind of distill out 3 mindsets that I used while going after that contract that you could use in any goal or dream that you're currently pursuing. These things are key to being successful in any endeavor, especially if we're stretching ourselves way outside our comfort zones, which I know that you are if you're listening to this. So let's just dive right in. Let me set the scene for you. I was about 11 months into trying to get this new company off the ground. It was a huge opportunity. I had mentorship from some of the best, but I wasn't able to gain any traction. I had been doing what I thought was everything I could for about 11 months. It had been almost the 1-year mark, and I had nothing to show for myself. I had no contracts. I had met people, but nothing had come of anything. And I remember that I called my dad and I sat down with him and I said, Dad, I think it's time for me to change what I'm doing here, quit, fold, do something else, go become a high school math teacher, because that was my backup plan. And he was like, Sumi, you got to do what you got to do. If you can't make this company work, I get it. And it was a really harsh moment for me because I felt like this company, if it had been successful, if it were to be successful, would be a game changer for not only my personal life, but for the lives of my entire family, my parents, my sisters, my extended family. We didn't grow up with any money. And here was an opportunity that I had to make something happen, and I wasn't able to gain any traction. And I was feeling really, really bad about it. Before I decided to throw in the towel, an opportunity came across my desk to go to a conference in San Diego. It was a relatively inexpensive event ticket, and it seemed to have a lot of people that were going to be there, companies that were going to be there that were, in my line of work and specifically geared toward companies wanting to penetrate the healthcare field, which was something that we wanted to do. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this because I am committed to doing everything it takes to save this company. Because even though I had called my dad and told him that it was time for me to maybe quit, there was something in me that was like, no, Sumi, you're not a quitter. You can't accept that this is the end of the rope. And what else can you do? So I put down the money that I didn't have to go to this conference in San Diego, to get the plane ticket, to get a hotel room. And I was like, I am going to literally be the best networker in this entire conference. I am going to take advantage of every opportunity. I am going to literally squeeze every last ounce of juice from this conference that I can in order to equip me to make something of it. Will there be an opportunity there that I cannot just win one small piece of work? And I remember this moment clearly. Walk in to the conference and it's filled, a sea of men in black suits, almost most of them at least twice my age. Because remember, I was in my early to mid 20s at the time, and I was in an industry where everybody was 50-year-old white man, 60-year-old white man. So I stood out like a sore thumb, and I had to do a lot to kind of make up for that disadvantage, right? And so I remember I walked into this room and I'm like, legs shaking, like voice shaking, trying to introduce myself to people. And there was a speaker who was talking about an opportunity that he had for one small business of this room of hundreds of people at this conference, okay? He had an opportunity for one small business that he was looking for to partner with him on a huge contract that they had just won. And I'm there standing in the back, like standing against the wall. I remember this clearly, taking notes, what he's looking for, what his pain points were, what the skills and traits and experience of the company that he's going to partner with must be. And I'm like writing it all down. And then I remember he says, please do not come to me. Don't approach me. Don't try to work with us. If you are not a company who understands the future of Medicare. I just remember I wrote that down. Understand future of Medicare. And he's like, well, I didn't know the first thing about Medicare. I mean, we didn't even have one contract yet. And I was, an engineering major in college. Like, what did I know? Nothing. But I remember thinking to myself, this is an opportunity. Like, how can I position myself to potentially go after this? So I'm like committed, and I'm like so nervous, make my way, walk to the front of the room to go shake his hand. I go up to him, introduce myself, and said, hi, I'm Sumi. Look out for, our company. I'm the president of K4 Solutions. We're going to be submitting a proposal to work with you guys because I think we're going to be a really good fit. As if I was somebody that he should know and he should take seriously, right? I don't know. In that moment, it's like I think back and I'm like, what gave me the courage to do that? I had what I'm calling this front of the room mindset. I was not going to accept that I was just going to be one of the hundreds in that room. I was going to put myself in the front of the room. I was going to put myself first and not take myself out of the game. Like I said, the first mindset was committed to doing everything that it took. So I even went to this conference in the first place. But when I got there, I adopted what I'm calling the front of the room mindset. I walked through the sea of black suits, shook his hand, made sure he knew who I was. I didn't just blend into the background like everybody else. Because remember, it's so tempting. Everybody was like talking to each other and talking about how hard this was and how, who's the right company for this? There were hundreds of companies there with so much more experience than I had. But I took it upon myself to put myself in the game and to take myself seriously, which is, I think, an amazing quality that too many of us don't take advantage of. We kind of look around and blend in with everybody else and think that, everybody's saying that this is so difficult, so I guess it's so difficult and I don't have a chance. No, you always have a chance. You just have to adopt that mindset and think that you're the one. You have to think that you're going to be the one. So anyways, I leave that room and I remember going for lunch to this restaurant in the Gaslight District. I sat down at this Italian restaurant, got a bowl of pasta and sparkling water. And I'm there with my notepad, thinking, okay, well, now that I've put myself out there and introduced myself, how can I follow through? And that is a third mindset I want to talk about today. I did not ask myself, can I submit on this proposal? Or can my company be a viable partner for this contract? That's might sound like the normal question you would ask, right? Can I do this? Yes or no? Wrong. That is not the question you want to ask. You want to ask yourself, how can I partner on this piece of work and be successful? How can I position myself so that he picks my company as the partner? How can I pitch the best presentation and win this piece of work? So that's the third mindset that I wanted to tease out today. It's not asking yourself, can I? It's asking yourself, how can I? So I'm racking my brain thinking about, okay, how can I position, how can I understand Medicare? What experience can I pull from any consultants or friends? Because basically the whole way I was pitching my company at the time was the skill sets of my engineering friends And those were the skill sets that we had in our database of resumes. Were all my friends from engineering school. And those were the skill sets that were our company skill sets. And none of that included expertise in Medicare. So on the plane home, and I'm like thinking, and I'm like looking through notes, and I like pull out a stack of business cards, and I see that there was literally a business card from a guy named Chad who worked at, you guys, I couldn't believe this at the time. He literally worked as a senior researcher at a Medicare think tank in Washington, D.C. Like, what? And I like looked at this guy and I'm like, this guy's card. And I'm like, oh my God, Chad. And by the way, his name was actually Chad, which is like the butt of the joke for like stereotypical white man. Funny enough, he was not white. He was an Indian guy. And I'm like, I literally met this guy 2 weeks ago and he's senior researcher for Medicare think tank. And I'm like, and so I get home and I'm like, okay, I'm going to call Chad and I'm going to see if he would be willing to talk with me about this proposal. But remember, I didn't have any money to pay him. So I was like, how can I get creative? How can I get resourceful? And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to, see if he'd be willing to be a consultant to me, write this proposal, maybe even go to this pitch meeting with me. If we win the contract, then I can absolutely give him a cut of the back end. Like after we win, I can have some money to pay him. So I called Chad and I presented to him this thing that was going on. And Chad was like, okay, yeah, like happy to help. So we sit down and we go through it all and we write this proposal together. And I'm like, Chad, will you come with me to the meeting? So you guys, these little things, like how did I have the courage to actually go up and shake the guy's hand? How did I would have never have figured out that I'd met this guy, Chad, if I hadn't gotten resourceful and if I hadn't been networking and if I hadn't thought about paying him from, a promise of the back end. All of these things are things that would normally stop people. I would have never have remembered that I even met this guy had I not already told myself that I was going to win this opportunity. I wouldn't have even remembered that I met this guy, which is why I like to say so many times we're surrounded by opportunities that would like change our lives or that would like help propel us to actually achieve what we want to achieve. But we just don't see them because we've already taken ourselves out of the game. We've already decided that we're not qualified. And so that is the third mentality. It's like, how can I get resourceful? Are you networking? Are you meeting people? Are you racking your brain for how you can achieve this goal? Anyways, so Chad said yes, he would come with me to this pitch meeting. And I'm going to fill you guys in on what happens next at this pitch meeting because it gives me goosebumps even to think about it. It's crazy. But that's for like the next episode because it's too long. But I want to leave off here and say and kind of summarize. Okay, so the 3 mindsets that got me from almost giving up to on the verge of winning. Well, you guys kind of like have a spoiler alert. Like, that I won this contract, right? So what got me from almost giving up to going to this pitch meeting with a guy who was an expert in the field that I needed him to be in were these 3 mindsets. This is something that anybody can employ in whatever opportunity that you have that you want to go for or you want to achieve in your current life circumstance, right? So the first mindset is, are you determined to doing what it takes? I could have easily said, well, it's just a conference in San Diego. Like, what's that going to happen? Nothing's going to come from that. Like, the hundreds of people are going. Like, how's that going to change my life? I could have easily just decided that I did enough and it was time to give up, right? No, I was committed to saving this company. So much was on the line. So that's mindset number 1. How can you look at what you've got going on? Look at what you're trying to call into your life right now and ask yourself, how can you get more committed? What would getting more committed to doing whatever it took look like for you in your current circumstance? Journal on that. What would being so much more committed than you currently are, what would being committed to do whatever it takes look like? The second mindset was that front of the room mentality. I didn't just stick on the back wall taking notes and then like leave with the masses. and go out to lunch with a bunch of people complaining about how hard it is in this business, which happens, by the way, in any business, which happens in any industry, right? Because that's why most people don't succeed. It's not because most people aren't capable. It's because most people don't have the right mindsets. So instead of joining that mass complaining mindset, I walked to the front of the room, shook his hand, told him to look out for our proposal. Then thirdly, I asked myself the question, how can I win this? And that's what led me to find this business card, call Chad, and get the two of us to this pitch meeting, which will be continued on the next episode. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope you will look at your calendar this week and figure out how you can implement these 3 mindsets to your life right now. And let me know. Tag me on Instagram. Tell me that you watch this. Tell me that you listen to this. And tell me how you're incorporating these 3 mindsets into your life currently. And I will see you on the next episode of the Dream Life Podcast.
I know that you